welcome to everyone here. As we have discussed, we decided to record this session and to put it to the EWMD YouTube channel. What means that if you do not agree to that your picture is be seen there, please just turn off your camera, right? And now I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Debu Chaudhuri. I'm not sure if I pronounce well your name. Okay, thank you. Debu is one of our male allies, and we have put March under the hashtag of male allies, right? And as we recently celebrated the International Women's Day, and in our post we said, flowers are nice, but justice would be way better. That's why I'm really delighted to welcome Debu to this event today. He will be talking about breaking barriers, embracing diversity in recruitment and beyond. Debu is, together with Janet, our member Janet Winkler, who's also present here. He is a co-founder of Bunton. I guess you already know Bunton. It's an ethical platform that places women in C-level positions. It's committed to fair and unbiased recruitment. Debu will briefly introduce the topic and outline 3 steps. First, his personal journey to Bunton, what inspired the creation of an ethical job platform, and what is his personal engagement with that platform. I'm really curious to know a bit more. Second, diversity and bias in recruitment. How do they work and how to address them? And finally, third point, ethical hiring in action. How Bunton applies fairness and transparency in its recruitment approach. So thank you a lot. Welcome, Debu, and I'm happy to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Regina. Welcome, everybody. It's actually the first time I'm speaking publicly on this subject, and that's why I have Janet and Anushri to back me up in case, because no, I never spoken publicly on this. And so I must also thank you for the opportunity, and I hope I satisfy everybody's expectations. When I was discussing with Regina about what really to present, and it's a bit of a challenge, especially speaking to all of you, because you are on the forefront of this movement. So I don't really have to explain to you the challenges that you face, or in general, women in executive positions, women in recruitment, women at work face in terms of discrimination, bias. And so that makes my job a little bit difficult, but it also makes it a bit easy because we think, at least me and Janet and Anushri think, that a lot of the challenges which are there, they're not going to go away tomorrow, or maybe not in the many years in the future. Technology can play a role in at least solving some of it or part of it. And that was the whole idea behind Bunton. I also saw Katharina here. She's one of our investors. uh, so not only does Katharina support us, she also support us with emotions and motivation and evangelizing our concepts. She also supported us with money, which is which is even more the proof of the pudding. So, and like Katharina, we were able to find a few other investors who also believed in this idea and funded us also as a commercial enterprise. And that's where I came in and told Janet at some point in time, look, if it has to succeed, it needs to make money. And people need to look at it also commercially for long-term sustainability. And as you would see in the next few minutes, it is working. Is it working very well? It's too early to say. But certainly it's working. There are women which we have placed in top positions. There are women who would not even have been shortlisted for very senior roles, who have been shortlisted. The selection, of course, could be to the best person, male or female. So we believe we have leveled the playing field to a large extent, or to a small extent, by using technology, using our platform, using our marketing campaign, so that people see that there are a very large portion of women which don't even get reached out to when a job application comes out. So, assuming a company wants diversity, assuming a company is ready for diversity, assuming a company has open positions, but they don't find women. And I think that's because we found out, and it's not rocket science, you can Google it right now, that all the AI, all the recruitment channels are significantly biased against gender. In general, of course, there are other biases too, but we are talking about the female gender here. So let's say a position for a CFO comes out today. I'm assuming, I don't know how many of you have a finance background, but if you have, the probability that you even get to see it is very, very low. And that's what we are trying to do with Bunton, to level the playing field, not talk about equality, but equity, which is slightly different, and I will come to that later. So the first part of the presentation is a bit of sales. First slide, at least the only one slide, it's not more, to talk about what we are. Then a couple of slides about AVM Day, how we partner with all of you, and then we get into what we are really trying to do. And the last part is how we are doing it. It gets a bit technical, but I've tried to remove the real technical, the large language models, the coding, the process out of it, so focus on the more strategic technical part of it. But if there are any questions, I can take it here, or offline later, from the pure technology part. And of course, Janet and Anushri are there to answer any other questions on this. And please feel free to ask in Deutsch or English. We are fine. I always say I'm a bit faster in English, so in Deutsch it takes me a bit time to respond. So, but German is completely okay. So, having said that, I'll just go straight into the presentation, because we can't have anything nowadays without PowerPoint. So please excuse me if I get into PowerPoint, because I just want to. So you can see my screen, right? So
Yes,
this
we
is actually, I took the first slide, what exactly when we first met AVM Day, I think in September, or maybe sometime at that time. This was the slide we had put it up to create a cooperation, and I kept the same image. And the whole idea, which is our logo, which is our philosophy, our vision, our mission, is to bring balance in the boardroom. That's also the Bunton tagline. Uh, the only slide of marketing which I wanted to put up, it's only just one slide, which really talks about all of you as our candidates. Why do we have hundreds of top women on our platform? Today, Anushri just told us a few minutes ago, we crossed the 600 mark. Uh, I would say there are another 2,000 women executives who are monitoring our platform, are associated with the platform, but they're not registered. But registered alone are about 600. It is anonymous. Women tend to be a lot more careful about putting their profiles out. So unless you want, the companies only can see what you want them to see. It could be your experience, it could be your industry, it could be your department, it could be your location, it could be with picture, without picture, it could be your complete resume, but it's in your control. Um, the AI, of course, I will come to that later. I will not talk about it now in this slide. And we optimize your profile. We advise you compared to other profiles where you are lacking. On the other side, with companies, access. We'll come to that in a case study. A bias-free, data-driven matchmaking. There is, I'll talk about that later. There's direct interaction. You are removing LinkedIn or many of the biased search engines, many of the biased recruiters. And I make it as a very strong word. Maybe some of you are from the recruitment industry, but we see a significant bias both from data and information and both from feedback from from our clients, that they feel that um, even going through recruitment channels or recruitment companies, there is a significant bias. I'll come to that later. Diversity, of course, companies talk about diversity, they want to do it, they often don't find people, and we get into that. And we have a massive network now of women entrepreneurs and partners who provide coaching, mentoring, consulting. Very soon we will onboard male, just like perhaps inspired by AVM Day, male coaches. For example, Aufsichtsrat of one of the biggest companies in Germany, a guy, he will probably be one of our coaches who will also who will also provide coaching from a man's perspective. But so that's the sales pitch. Now, one slide about our partnership. On the AVM Day website, there's a Bunton logo, the Bunton link. The same on our side. We have a special landing page for AVM Day, which tells us about the benefits of joining us. The whole idea happened was AVM Day, driven by Janet and Tanu, and then Regina came in, and other members came in, where we had the feeling that AVM Day is an organization, it's doing great work, but eventually the goal is to put women in positions, and that we thought as a partnership with Bunton would make that happen. So if you are a AVM Day member, you get tagged on our site, but more about that we can take it offline. We had some sessions already. We do joint social media activities. Regina has been incredibly helpful. And we did a press release, LinkedIn, Facebook, and hopefully we will soon place some of AVM Day members in top positions. That hasn't happened yet. Now, our story, Regina mentioned about the inspiration, and ideally Janet should speak here, but it's quite simple. It's been extensively covered in the press. Uh, my background is technology, of course, but the last few years I've been an investor in many companies, listed, unlisted, private equity, and me and Janet worked together on some projects individually as separate companies, and but Janet was also my neighbor in the same building where we were working. And on the right hand side article which says Mehr Diversität for Spitzenposten, you can read is that I was in a listed company as the Aufsichtsrat Vorsitzender, a well-known German listed company, not known for really nice things. And I found that the whole atmosphere was incredibly toxic, because I find the decision making, was toxic, it was all male. And it was not some rocket science or I had some vision. I just one day was talking to Janet and told Janet, hey, Janet, I want to step out. But I think the only way to save this company is have more diversity in the management. Because I just find the discussions completely one sided. So, can you help me from AVMD and from your network to find some women entrepreneurs? Or, sorry, women board members who would take up my position. And Janet couldn't find anybody. And eventually, we found somebody, not through AVMD, very qualified woman executive took over my position as the boss of the Aufsichtsrat. But that set us thinking, why is it that women don't want to do it? And there are several reasons for that. You all know it. Women are a bit more careful, not as adventurous, much more self introspective, much more self critical. They don't look just for the position or the money, they look at the environment. And that set us off thinking about why we should start something like this. And that's the story of our start. We built the platform. Then we had Katharina and many investors jumping in, supporting us. We had our first client, we had our first successes, and the story went on from there. Incidentally, the company was formed on March 8, 2022. Janet insisted that, and I agreed it's a great idea. So we are 3 years old now. And the left-hand side article is also my favorite. There are many articles about us in the press, but it's article because it's important because at some point in time last year, we decided together with Nadine Zimmerman, she's not on the call today, she's our Beirat, she's on our Beirat, and decided to interview 20 top women CEOs in Germany. A freewheeling interview, lots of questions, but it came down to basically two questions. What did you do to reach where you are today? And the second question was, what you wish you could have done to reach where you are today? And that was a really a path breaking experience for all of us. The answers we received, and that led us to start another survey. I will talk about it later, to cover 500 women. We are already at 200, so please participate in that survey, but I'll come to that later. Let's go to the problem statement. So on the left side, it's very clear. Of course, there are some people who would say, I'm not sure if the women are the right candidates, and oh, will they work or not? But leave that apart. There is a clear desire in most managements to find somebody, to diversify, whether it's pressure, whether it makes them look good, whether it's ESG, whether it's the capital market, and they are unable to find. And on the other hand, if you see, and this is a lot of it is scientifically proven, we just put nice pictures to make it more simple and understandable. The women have their own reasons why they don't want to be a part of this offer. And then there's this big disconnect which continues, and we have had feedback from managers from top companies who say, well, we were looking for women and nobody applied. And so that's problem statement one. Problem statement two is the loop itself. So when you have the job description, it's written mainly from a male perspective. The benefits, the work environment, it's a subconscious bias which creeps in. Then it goes out in the press, point two. The number of male applicants is by far, I would say, for every 10 male applicants, there is probably one woman applicant. That's the gap. Number three, the bias gets amplified. Search engines, social media networks start advertising more to men based on the job history of applications. And Eventually, majority of qualified women do not apply because they don't even get to know of it, and then eventually there would be a lack of final candidates. It's a lot more complicated than this. We have just tried to simplify it. So there is a whole bunch of data out there. I would strongly recommend that you, if you have already not read it, read Invisible Woman by Caroline Perez, a very fascinating book. There are many other books, many other studies which clearly point this out. A simple Google search will show you. So hence we sat down and made this very colorful diagram on the right to design our architecture for a gender neutral AI algorithm. So at the base level, there is just a simple algorithm. There's no AI really. It just matches. We collect data on location, industry, role, department, years of experience, education. Again, up to you to provide how much you want to provide. And it's a simple match. But then the AI kicks in, and I will talk about it much later, where we say, let's start to neutralize. Women tend to move jobs because of their husbands, because of children. They take breaks a lot more. They move departments a lot more. Data clearly shows that if you are a male accountant, you will probably die as a male accountant. You will work 40 years in the same role. Women tend to be a lot more diverse. You have different departments, HR, marketing, and that reduces their chances of getting shortlisted. They prefer more quality of life than just as a salary or a big car and all that. And our AI comes in and looks at the soft factors and does the neutralizing, or what we say re-ranking at that end. Then we start looking at career advice. Then we look at what we talked about, the 20 women CEOs we interviewed. 20 is a very small number. We are trying to make it to 500. Janet wants to push it to 5,000 in the future, where that kind of information, by comparing and then saying, well, Regina, if you were to get a certification for this, or if you were to get something, join this kind of network, or visible in this kind of an area, your probability goes up by 30%. So that's in progress. We are still fixing it. And eventually it's based on user behavior, just the way Netflix works, where we start nudging subconsciously women candidates to do it. But I think we are 1 year away from that part. A bit of a case study. It's a lot of text and a lot of marketing in the last line, where we have a fantastic quote from Notal. Notal, if you don't know, is one of the largest tech companies, originally from the Nordics, today growing incredibly fast. And if you really see the last box, the client benefit, when they pushed out a CFO role, they had 7 applications, all men. Bunton came in, the number of applications moved on to 15, which means as a company, you already have a direct benefit, that you have a better, more diverse choice, man or woman. And then, because of technology, it's incredibly fast, incredibly accurate, and incredibly transparent. There is a manual intervention. I think Janet did a lot of that, which we are also eventually trying to convert into technology. And the best fit candidate, which was a woman, got onboarded. So today, I don't know if they've made a public announcement, but the CFO, Frau Haslinger, was keep it to yourself confidentially if it's not already public information, but came from us. So this is a clear benefit where the candidate would never have even been approached. She's based in Switzerland, Austria, sorry. for a job in Berlin. And she, before that, she worked in London, but she went through the grind of a completely hard process to select a CFO of a big, fast growing company, and she made it. But she wasn't even in the original pool at all. So that's the proof that the solution works. And there are many other cases. Now let's talk about bias and the technology part of it. Now this is where it gets slightly technical. I'm trying to, I'll try to not go too deep into it. But I always say, there is a bias in the society itself, and we will see about that later. So there is a biased AI anyway. The algorithms that are written, the data that is generated, the data that is interpreted, the data that is aggregated, evaluated, implemented, there is a clear bias. But a lot of it comes from the bias in the society itself. This is an old study. Actually, originally, I made it a couple of years ago, but today this is from 2018, and today it's a lot more worse. So we know it, but we do not know the true impact of it. This is from 2018, where LinkedIn, Amazon, and Netflix, let's say clear leaders in their field, a very large percentage of that, and this number is much more today, clearly comes from recommender systems. There are dollars behind this. And we know it, when you go on Amazon, obviously you know it, but we underestimate the billions of dollars which go into it, and they generate income for companies, and how deep is their influence in affecting our choices. There is a clear business impact. If you look at bias, there are more men which make it into the world distribution at a job level. In the candidate pool, it starts already getting more biased, or women are lesser. At the screening algorithm, the algorithmic bias will come in, which I will talk about. Then we have a human bias, which in Bunton we see every day. I mean, if you were to see my email and conversations, the bias is so strong. And I'm talking about, I think Janet and me and Anushri have reached out to more than 13,000 decision makers alone in Germany, of which I would say half of them we are in touch with. Many of them ignore us, which is fine. It's incredible the amount of human bias which is in the decision making. Uh, a little bit more about that. So these are all studies which I wanted to quote from. Just by changing the name, if I were to change the name from Regina Sampson to Roger Sampson, just humanly, there's a 30% more chance that she will get interviewed. And it's proven by studies. But we're not talking about human bias right now. We're talking about algorithm. And and see, these are all self-learning systems. We know that. Machine learning and deep learning, eventually they are self-learning. And the impact is so huge. It learns so fast. It's processing trillions of bytes of data, and then it teaches itself that male candidates are more preferable. And and that's where the algorithmic bias comes in. And I tried to put a simple, there's a chart I found from the sources there. You can go there. I think this was the simplest version I would try to highlight on how the bias comes in the data. So you have a historical bias, clearly, male, female, black, white. But then you start getting into whom you select, the representation bias. A clear example is crash test dummies. So women die more in car crashes because crash test dummies were male for a long time. Now it's changing. So and the female body is differently structured than a male body. So the selection itself started coming in, and that has a huge impact eventually, where more women died in car crashes than men because the crash test dummies themselves were different. Then you start a measurement bias. This is again, let's say, you know, criminals. You know, you have a black criminal and a white criminal, and then because of judgments, because of I can send you this offline, but let's say the probability of repeat offendability by a white person is much lesser than a black person, which is absolute nonsense. There's no data which really supports that two criminals, one white, one black, the white guy will be more criminal later, or less criminal than the black guy. So we start measuring wrong. Then goes data set, pre-processing, train. You know, you have this training, model training, evaluation. But let's go straight to the aggregation bias. And then we start aggregating this, and Microsoft is probably the biggest I wouldn't say criminal, but biggest responsible for that, because for years they dominated completely B2C data of user. And this is where it starts coming in terms of when you aggregate the data, you start sifting through it, and which when you define the model, so that typically comes in face recognition. So it's probably not very relevant to Bunton, but it's important to understand why face recognition is so dangerous, because that's where it starts classifying. It starts putting more alarms for, let's say, black people, or yeah. And then you have the evaluation bias, which is quite obvious. So you would say uh, a white old male is better qualified from something than a black young female. And to me, the worst is actually the deployment bias. All this goes into deployment. We see so many studies which show that once you deploy all this wrong, uh, let's say we had a study called child abuse in poor families. I can get back to it. There's so many studies and data we see, I can't recollect. So, but then you say, oh, the black people are more poor than white people, so the child abuse must be higher in black families. So you deploy the entire thing wrong, and entire states and cities in America, or districts have deployed this software completely wrong. And then you have real world implications, which goes back to the main world again, and the whole cycle repeats. So this is just to give an understanding how data is generated, and then how the model is built and implemented, and the biases which creep in. So what do? We do a bias mitigation. In very simple terms, we re-rank. So if a lady or a woman candidate has missed out 2 years because of childbirth, we just simply re-rank. I mean, it sounds simple. It is simple. It's a lot of work, but it is actually quite simple. You put fairness aware ranking in your recommendation systems. LinkedIn has started doing it now. It doesn't work. They say they do it, but I think we do it better than LinkedIn. And the second is overcompensation. When I say the human bias, so this was the representation and the data bias, and then we have a human bias where we do overcompensate. So this, like if you're a nanny or a gynecologist, you are a woman or a nurse. If you are a doctor or an engineer or a CFO, you are a human. If you're in HR, you're probably a woman. And what we do is, what we use a technology, or not a methodology called overcompensation, which which kind of pushes through uh, across profiles the candidate slate into the human decision making, saying you have to look at that. She's a female, but she's an equally good engineer as a man. So what does it mean for all of us, all of you, me, Janet, is eventually you need to ask the right questions. Um, it's a very consulting slide, but there's a lot behind it in terms of we see that in companies, test and audit of the data is not done on all the factors which are on the left. How was the data collected? By whom was it collected? Why was it collected? Is the data diverse enough? And what are the historical and ideological mappings does it contain? I could actually speak a whole day just on this slide. And there's not enough test and audit which goes on. And the remaining three, fairness, ethics, transparency, and diverse talent, see, if you look at the right hand part of the slide, I have written is somebody is selling you an AI solution, ask where their data comes from. But eventually, we believe it's people who do it, people who design it, and the teams which are creating and implementing AI are not diverse enough. And actually, the data is even worse. This is from girlswhocode.com that only 13% of AI ML companies are run by female, and 1 in 5 computer science graduates are female. My understanding it is much worse than this. So technology is great. Technology can only go a certain path, a certain way, but unless we are putting and building diverse and inclusive teams, this challenge will persist. So questions for you: how to proceed? Am I in the right company? Is my AI that I use good? Is it fair? I just put down 5 points. I don't know how much it is. It is purely my personal and from my perspective. Also, looking at other slides of other people, you need to call out desirable and undesirable biases. I mean, there are desirable biases too, and let's not forget that. In fact, sometimes I feel even our AI is biased too much towards something else. So I think a lot of conversations around biases, we forget that some biases are also desirable, and why not promote them? That's the first thing. And the second is unintended biases. We see that in our conversations with many executives, including women, who who have unintended. And I think people need to identify and increase awareness of that. Algorithms are so dark and so unexplainable, but there is a lot of people, a lot of code, a lot of experts who can implement explainable algorithms. I think, and things like GDPR is required, but they are so badly structured that a layperson does not understand it. And I personally am a big promoter of explainable algorithms, and it's possible. Uh, I think nobody looks at ethical considerations, and now it's really worse after Mr. Trump is there and Facebook and everybody has backed out of that. I think anyway it was not there before, and whatever little was there is already gone, at least from Facebook and Twitter, of course, and TikTok and some of them. But it's very key. And a pure nerdish point of view, please Google it, no code movement. It's getting stronger by the day. No code companies are valued as unicorns today. I think people don't talk about it, but I believe that is the way a lot of the challenges which we have today in society and interpreting code and data would go away if we adopt more and more no code movement, more the no code philosophy. And that's my last slide. Uh, we talk about it a lot. What is equality and what is equity? And you see it, it's different. And what we are talking about is equity here, um, making a level playing field for everybody. It I cannot stress it more than this. Please take a part in the survey. It will really, really help us. Please share the link to as many people as you can. The more women who participate in the survey, the more stronger our data becomes, the more stronger our voice becomes in the press. Efat said is a strong voice, and our earlier just with 20 women had a lot of coverage. So if we can build it up, it will be a lot more. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Debu, for this interesting and inspiring lecture of your work and point of view. We can go to a Q&A or kind of discussion now. And please feel free to have any question you want and to address it to Debu and also to Janet and Anushri.
Well, if no one wants to start, then I start. First of all, thank you so much. That was really an enlightening session for me, to be honest. I heard, of course, about Bunton before because I'm part of the EWMD, and Regina is one of the biggest fans of this initiative and the whole setup. So she's really running around and telling people about it because she's completely convinced about it. And with today, I am too. I have to admit, I was not looking into it in detail. I saw the webpage, but I was hopping away because of other reasons, of course. But the whole story that you gave us today was so strong and was so impactful to me. And this as well being told by a guy, as well being told by a guy who is not white, who has a similar experience like women have. And I'm seriously, I'm like in German, I would say I'm flashed, like, like yeah, it was really impactful to me today. Thank you so much. Now, when it comes to the AI that you were talking about, I am myself working with AI. I am an AI consultant. And of course, I know all the bias topics that you were talking about. And I really would love to understand a little bit more about the picture that you were showing, how Bunton works, because you were saying in that pyramid that we were seeing, there is the algorithm, which is not yet AI, of course not, it's an algorithm. And then there were the other topics coming on top of that. That I was, to be honest, I was not understanding it clearly. So maybe you can give me another sentence or two about how the AI works. I mean, not from the technical aspect now, more from what it achieves, how you are using AI to achieve what you are doing.
Well, there are three simple principles behind that, and these are actually the top three principles in the top two parts of that pyramid. One is clearly learning from successful women. So we today have 600 plus and increasing every day. So when I look at, so we have, let's say, from Mercedes Benz, a few people. So let's say we look at CFOs in automotive companies in Baden-Württemberg with 14 years experience or more, having a PhD in economics. We can go deeper and deeper, right? It depends. We can only look at CFOs. And now, when we see the pattern on what they did, and it's clearly you see patterns on what they have done to reach that CFO position. Not everything is, of course, captured. Maybe they work late at night or went very early to office at 6 in the morning. We don't capture that. That will come in the survey, for example. But there's a significant amount of data we can capture, and then we can start identifying women who are those positions, but they're not CFOs, and kind of nudge them to apply for CFO positions or push their resumes forward, knowing that they will have an incredibly good chance, because the data clearly shows that these kind of profiles are wanted at CFO level. So one is learning from the existing. It's like the recommendation engine, what Netflix is doing. Not exactly, but kind of. So that is one part. The other is looking at pure gaps in profiles. That is, you have everything, Beata, but you don't have knowledge of Chinese. I don't know, right? And, you know, I couldn't think of a better example. Sorry, but but telling you, hey, Beata, if you were to learn Chinese, or I don't know, or if you were to be vote for SPD, I mean, we collect a lot of data, right? And you see that, or if you would change your location, maybe if you start looking at, you said you're based in Berlin, but the biggest opportunities for you today are in Baden-Württemberg. Maybe you would like to shift or apply or home office or have a. So second is this helping, assisting, recommending current profiles to say, well, if you were to do this, your chances improve. And the third is basically, we have, you Beate, for example, we might find that a lot of women actually need help in AI. And they need it in their jobs, they need it in their current job, they need it into their future jobs or what they're applying. And we would say, you know what, proactively, please talk to Beate, and if she can be of help. So more or less, that's what the engines try to do: proactively identify gaps, missing qualifications, neutralizing the gap that you have. So even if you took some time off for motherhood, it automatically puts you on par with somebody who did not, or a man who did not take a gap. So these are some of the things which we do, but they happen on the top two, not on the bottom two parts of the pyramid.
Okay, thank you for letting me know a little bit deeper how it works. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And go on, please, go on. I'm a fan now as well. I will run with you if I can. But yeah, this is really, it's a wonderful initiative as well, Janet. Thank you.
It's really Janet's brainstorm, honestly, I must say that. Not only because she's there, but technology is fine. We should not forget. That's why I always put a slide. There's a human bias and there is a society bias. And technology works and push, and I can drive, and maybe we raise $1 million tomorrow and put even more power behind our engine. But it's Janet and Anushri who deal with the human part of it, because a lot of clients say a lot of strange things. AI or no AI or no AI, Janet has to deal with them. So and there's a lot of work which goes into that, and I think we should not ignore the non-tech part of it.
Yes, and I can only imagine, Janet and Anushri, how much you are having to deal with this kind of BS that is coming in very often, because we as women, we know what we hear when we speak about these topics, right? So you have to deal with it. That means like you have a certain power in you to deal with that. So thank you for doing the job for all the women that are able to use the work that you already were doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beate. And next one is Katharina, who has raised her hand to ask a question or whatever.
Yes, I would like to ask you, Janet and Debu, what would you think is the biggest showstopper for a woman to reach the top level from your experience in Bunton?
Showstopper. So maybe I can answer. Or do you want to answer?
Showstopper heißt, Katharina, kannst du das in Deutsch fragen?
Yes.
No, I know the showstopper.
No,
what is the showstopper to come
I
to
want
the
to
top?
know what is the biggest
No. I'm asking.
or the
Okay,
biggest
I reply.
hindrance.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Biggest hindrance why a
So
woman
from my perspective, the showstopper is
level.
not having a good network. So to think I can do everything by myself, this is one of the biggest issue. The second is CV. I have seen a lot of very good female leaders, but the CV is not, it does not cover the work she has done. This is a showstopper, and to say always no instead of yes. These are the three things I would say are showstoppers.
What do you
I
mean,
mean,
CV, Janet?
we see that in our in the data that the resumes are really weak. And one woman CEO told us that, and I can even give the name, Tina Kleingard. I mean, to me, a very impressive lady. She was on the board of Wirecard, and she's the first lady who stepped out and raised the red card, saying something is bloody wrong with this company. And nobody listened to her and actually kicked her out. It's all on Google. So, and she's a great supporter of ours. And if people would have listened to Tina Kleingard, a lot of people would have saved a lot of money. And I know a lot of poor, not poor, but let's say humble families who lost crazy amounts of money, 30, 40,000 euro in that stock, because the entire BaFin and all turned a blind eye to them. And Tina was shouting from the rooftops saying something is wrong with these guys. And Tina once told me and Janet that, and I remember that she said it casually in a conversation, that women are evaluated based on their work they have done, what they have achieved. And men are evaluated on their potential. And this is fundamental to not just in Janet's world, your world, it's to my technical world. Because if I'm constantly crunching data, which is on the past, my data itself is screwed up. What about the potential we do not get? So, you know, if Beata, because that's the only person, and Regina and Katharina were to register on Bunton and share data and all that, I would only get, and LinkedIn and scraping, I would only get data on all that you guys have done. Whereas for men, I would always get data on what they can do. So it's incredible work on us to calibrate the platform and the algorithm. And I'm just repeating Janet's point that that women need to step up. Women need to be visible a lot more, because if you are going to post once on LinkedIn, like Katharina, for example, brilliant. I mean, she's one of the top LinkedIn AI influencers, LinkedIn influencers. I think it makes a difference, not just morally or ethically. I'm simply saying that Katharina will get more job offers than others who don't. Clearly, because whenever a job comes up, it will be pushed more to Katharina, because the algorithms will identify her as a lot more active and a lot more applicant. I think guys just apply even if they're not qualified, and they don't get selected. Let's face that. But the search engines, the manual recruiters, the human guys automatically form a bias that this guy applies. So why not send it more to him? It's not the right thing. But at least there is a scope of improvement in women's presence on the internet.
Okay,
So
thank
then
you.
I conclude that it is, a shift of mindset is needed to, women have learned never boast yourself, be humble, and things like that. So we clearly also need a shift of mindset to to say more what we have accomplished, how cool we are, and how nice and wonderful, and what we can do. That is one thing, and the other thing is that the AI have to be changed, to be more bias free. But I think we can wait long for this. A shift of mindset is clearly probably more easy.
No, the shift in mindset feeds the AI too, to a large extent. And this is what I also try to highlight. Even if I get raised today, or we raise $1 million or millions of dollars in funding, OpenAI, myself and Janet were in London last week at the Goldman Sachs conference, and the big American companies talk about billions in investment in AI and models. And even we as a German company raise a few millions. To me, it's still a very difficult Hercules job, because the data which is coming from the women is not as strong already. So it's double the effort to re-rank, and first we have to re-rank, reprogram, put more additional weightages, and then do it. If the data itself was stronger, half our job will become easier.
And if I may, there is a different perspective as well. Katharina, you said the mindset has to shift a little bit, right? And I would say it's not even shifting a little bit. First of all, it has to drastically shift. And the second thing is not only from one end, but from several ends. Let's say at least from the women's perspective and the man's perspective. If I just check on myself now, what my experience is, I am in German we say dominant. I know in English it's the wrong word, but let's say present. I'm a very present person, okay? So I run around and I'm boasting about myself. I do indeed run around and tell how good I am, because I know how good I am. I'm a unicorn in that case, because most women don't do that. But because I do that, I speak about my achievements, I speak about what I have done, and I speak about what as well I am capable of. Men look at me like, what the hell? Can she not just shut down a little bit? Can she not just stop talking about this? Because I'm taking away light from them. Very often this is happening. So we need a mindset shift on both ends. We need women who are allowing themselves to feel good about what they have done, what they can do, what they're capable of, and showing the skills and everything, with a good portion of like, this is me. But on the other side, we need to have men who are allowing that to
Yes.
happen. And this is one of I think, the critical aspects as well. And now I'm shutting down again because Diana wants to say something.
No problem, and thank you. I have a question, because I was seeing the comment from Regina in the chat regarding the jobs for German speaking, right? In the countries I know, of course, it's predominant. But what about for jobs with English speaking, or, to be honest, any other language? Is there any plan right now? I know mostly the people who are working here are actually German speakers, but I'm not one of them, for example. And I think it's a very interesting platform. However, I'm limited from this point of view. You already know the ones who are already in Germany, right? So do you have anything in mind from this point of view?
Yes and no. I mean, we would love to expand. We have a lot of requests. Actually, we just turned down a request from ECB, the European Central Bank, because by nature they want to recruit all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't do that. Honestly, Diana, it's just a matter of time. We will do it, and bandwidth. I mean, we believe there is still a lot of potential in the DACH area.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of time, and it's a matter of bandwidth as soon as we have it. The only thing I can say is we see a lot of, or quite a few English speaking jobs too, where an absolute solid knowledge of English is also a very, very good requirement, or an international experience. And like I can't give more details, but we have a case where Berlin, highly qualified lady, moved in because of her husband. Um, German is not that good. She just moved in a few months ago. Uh, Very highly qualified job in London before that, and I'm sure she is being interviewed and she is being sought after, because even if you see the Nortal situation, yes, it's a global company. It's not even a German company. So we also have a lot of non-German companies in
Mm-hmm.
Germany looking for people, and there the importance of knowing German would be reduced. Let's or less weightage. But yeah, but you have to speak German at some point in time.
Well, yes and
Everything.
no. I mean, I would challenge that. I'm in Germany for 5 years and I don't.
But
And
it would increase your
yes,
opportunity.
of course. But my question was actually, I totally got your point, of course, and I know what the situation is, right? But you gave the example of Berlin, and I'm living in Berlin, and of course, here are more chances to actually find companies. Even startups, I think, are more which are requiring only English. Of course, it's harder, but I was just curious if, your tool is also targeting at a certain point to focus more on the English or any other languages, because I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of other people who speak other languages as well. It's not just English, but let's see.
Yes, we were in
Debates.
Goldman Sachs event last week in London, and you're invited as one of the top companies in this area in AI, and we were flooded with requests from British people to start our setup in the UK. But I mean, as you know, there are several considerations.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
not just the market; it's business, time, people, company, and all that. Money.
Of course.
So, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
I
good.
think
Thank you.
Evelyn has a question.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Evelyn Ramford, and I'm based in Berlin, and I'm originally from South Africa. I'm part of EWMD Berlin Brandenburg chapter. And thank you firstly for the work that you're doing, because last year, being on 12 application processes end to end with 12 companies and being told we took the other candidate was really a marathon. And from biases of you're from South Africa, your name sounds weird, you look different, and I often had to give my resident status, and so this was often more challenging. I just have to change the room a minute, and so it was quite challenging to work with this process. And so my question was, with all the biases that are in the system, from CVs to networking, I was recommended to meet the hiring manager and then basically network with the hiring manager until this person got to know me and said, okay, I want to hire you, apart from going through an application process. But this was not comfortable for me, because I would rather prefer to go through an application process and look for somebody in the network who knew it. So I wanted to find out if you can comment on experience with candidates talking directly to the hiring manager to understand in this senior level with more than 20 years experience in parallel with the application process.
I'm more the tech guy, and we want to, at least we aim to make it as biasless as possible using technology. And then, because if the hiring manager is talking to you, he's also talking to a guy. So we try to keep it as much fact-based and anonymous and competence-based as possible using technology, and not get into even conversations until they are very serious about you. But you're right, there is a lot of soft factors, and I would ask Janet to take that, because she's the one who's dealing with all these hiring managers every day. I'm trying not to deal with them using technology. So I would really ask Janet to tell you what her advice would be when you have struggled so much, and whether you should continue go through the process or jump the process and talk to a hiring manager. It's muted us.
What I can say, it's really a black box also for me. Yeah. For you, I would say ask and try to get more contact. If you really want this job, try to get another contact in this company to find out who is really important. I don't want to say that HR is not important, but sometimes you need, as always, network or a contact who brings you in if you really want to go into this or if you really want to join this company. And HR, I'm not from HR, and yeah, we also have our challenge, yeah, to get into it. And from you as a candidate perspective, I would say if you want to do this job, then try it and try it again. And if they say no, then try it again. Sometimes it happens that a
Thanks,
person
Janet.
who is in this position, yeah, that the person says no, and then the position is open. So that is something, yeah. So something you need to repeat your request, yeah. If it is a big company, yeah, you have a big team, you have a big recruiting team, so it's also a black box, yeah. Decides what? It's not a person who is working with you, yeah. It is a person who sits in a recruiting center or is in a team. So it's really hard to give an advice or a tip or something like that, yeah. But if you like,
Thanks.
we can
That's
have a
helpful.
call, yeah, and we can have another session. But this is what I
Yes.
can tell you at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. It was
Yeah, I mean,
curious.
yeah, I think Janet is the right. I think you should have a call, and because, but we use a lot of AI in selling also, right? To not just for candidates and matching and pushing women up the corporate ladder. We use it for selling to clients, right? To understand what the clients want to hear and tell them, hey, join Bunton, pay us some money, convince candidates like you to join us. So we use AI on the other side. And the best thing I like about AI in sales, or when you're pitching yourself, it doesn't give up, right? It's like your Google Maps. It's always polite, even if you take the wrong turn. And the best thing about AI is that it doesn't give up. So I write a mail to Regina saying, Regina, will you work with me in Bunton? And Regina says, no, I will never work with you. And then I get depressed, and I don't know what that is this. But the AI will very politely reply to Regina saying, oh, that's okay, I understand. Come on, it's fine. I'll not bother you. But how about 3 months later? And 3 months later, it will write to Regina again saying, Regina, I'm back. Would you like to talk to me again? I think there are some lessons to be learned. And men are like that in general. They keep, even if the person tells me, shut up and go out, after 1 week, I say, yeah, okay, can I talk to you again? And so I think my only advice is be a bit like AI. Be impersonal about it. And even if people put you down, just don't. And keep replying. But talk to Janet. Please talk to Janet.
Thank you.
Separately.
Okay,
I
so
will set up a call.
Each
Thank
case is
you.
very specific.
if I may step in, Katharina has raised her hand again, and let's try to. You can ask your question, Katharina, but shortly, please, because Debu and
Regina.
Janet haven't report.
Regina, can you repeat the last 10 seconds, please? There was some.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's our problem.
Okay. I asked Katarina to be the last one to ask
Okay.
you a question because Janet wrote me that you have another call.
Yes, we do.
So maybe we should come to an end here, but just one more short question, Katarina.
It's not really a question. It's just a statement because I said it seems like we have to switch our mindset, but this implies in a way that women have something wrong or are wrong, and I never want to have this like that. We are not wrong. It's not us, it's clearly the system. The system has a bias, not us. And the system is in a traditional man's perspectives layout, let's put it like that. So it's not our fault. We are completely correct. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Katarina. This is a very good conclusion and kind of last words. So we can repeat, and Debu, you can come, and Janet, for another session. This was so interesting, and I think there will be more ladies who would be interested in talking again. So let's make plans for next time, maybe. So for now, I would like to thank you a lot, Debu and Janet and Anushri, for this very interesting and inspiring lecture. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. And I hope we stay in touch and continue working together. And well, what else? Have a great evening, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. I think from our side,
Thank you.
it is great. And next time,
Thank
I'm sure we
you
will
very
have
much.
a lot more data, a lot more insights. So we'll be higher up the pyramid as Beate was asking. So we will be a little bit higher up with more
Maybe
data.
one more consideration. We were not only German. There were colleagues from Lithuania, from Spain, and from Italy.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
And from South Africa, I think.
Yes.
So we are
Okay, South Africa, Cape Town in South Africa, but I've been a member of EWMD for since it was formed in the 1980s.
And
Great.
Anna
So, yeah.
from EDP is from, I don't know, Madrid, from Spain.
Yes, from Spain. We are a national federation, so we graduate from Spain, from Barcelona, concretely.
So thank you again and have a very nice evening.